All right, part two. Follow up on the topic of vaccines. I had a couple comments under the last one. And often for me, writing is much harder than just fucking blabbing. So I'm going to start this with responding to the comments under the last video discussing this. So Shane said, so you really think talking about COVID on the channel wouldn't be fine? Referring to the fact that I'm doing this over on my private channel instead of doing it on Sorting Myself Out. Hey, Nolan. Hey, Andrew. Hope you guys are well. It's not that I thought it wouldn't be fine. It was that I did not know if it would be fine or not. And I did look. I tried searching the video after and tried like from an incognito window looking at my channel, and yeah, it was doing weird stuff. Like some of the times I tried to search the exact title of the video, it didn't come up. Also, it was not on my channel page for at least a day. So the algorithm did do weird things with this that it doesn't do with, which was the same kinds of things, only worse, that happened with Sorting Myself Out back when me and Ryan first talked about COVID and fucked the channel up with the algorithm. So it wasn't, I don't think it was as bad. Like shadow banning or whatever, fucking even just, yeah. Anyway, whatever it is that the algorithm does if you talk about something they don't want to do, there was some of that. So I'm glad I did just come over here to talk about it. Yeah, that's enough on that. All right, next comment. Levi wrote, after psych meds, I have very thin trust of Big Pharma. That's been my problem with it all. I just feel like they rush it out and cheated testing like they do with psych meds. Yeah, and I totally understand that, Levi. Me getting the vaccine was not me saying I trust the system. I'm aware that, first of all, even with entirely good intentions, no corruption whatsoever, we make mistakes. Then on top of that, there's the financial aspect that brings in corruption. And when it comes to ideas of conspiracies of people trying to damage general public health, I don't believe in any of it when it comes to that. Not in the sense, but like agnostic. Like, yes, I know there's groups of people trying to do damage. Like there are all kinds of actual conspiracies. There are people who want to hurt other people. There are people who would intentionally fuck with things. But okay, so I guess maybe it's like you hear Peterson talk about if you're just trusting from a naive place because you don't think people can hurt you, that's bad. Then you, and that we often move from that to cynicism. But that again is just a pull. Can I trust everyone? If you switch to cynicism, I can't trust anyone. You're not going to get hurt the way a naive person would, but you're also blocking out a part of reality. It's like when it comes to the medical system or the systems in general, I've gone through those stages. Like as a small kid, I was told it's all benevolent. Then I got older and got cynical. I'm aware now that I don't know to what degree. And me taking the vaccine was not me trusting the vaccine. It was me taking a risk. Yeah, I saw it as a gamble the same way, but like all medication is that. When I was a kid, I had an allergic reaction to something and they gave me penicillin and I had a reason to go, I forget what. They gave me penicillin. I had an allergic reaction to penicillin. So going to the doctor there, it had an adverse effect on me. Then as a child, they gave me erythromycin instead. When I was older, like late teens, I got prescribed erythromycin for something and had an allergic reaction to that. So they sent me to an allergy specialist to find out what antibiotics could be used. And they did that thing where they put fucking like 40 or whatever little dots to see what you react to. And I was no longer allergic to penicillin, was now allergic to erythromycin. So it's like, I'm not naive that in any sense. And now when it comes to things like that, that's better than psych meds. Psych meds are a fuck because even the ones that work, we often don't know how they work. But you can be prescribed a psych med because you're horribly depressed and you can have the side effect of it making you extremely suicidal, even if you weren't before. So I'm fully aware that when it comes to medication, what you're doing is taking a gamble. So me getting the vaccine, that's not a sign of me saying big pharmacy is trustworthy. It was me taking a risk on it. And then Adela commented, and Adela, are you here? Because you were excited that I was doing the follow-up. It's only showing me 2 people here. All right, well, whether you're here or not, I'm going to do the response. And maybe this is something like she can't find it because the algorithm did not like the fact that I wrote the vaccine in the title. But that's the topic. So anyway, Adela commented, if you had COVID-19 already, you have the antibodies. Exclamation point, no need for vax. Common sense has somehow vanished from this current timeline. Just saying. So first of all, I don't think this is an issue of common sense. Okay, great. You are here. I don't think common sense applies. Like, it's not sufficient to deal with things. And I don't think common sense applies directly to scientific things. That's the reason we have medical science. It's the reason we have physics. It's the reason we have chemistry, is these things are not common sense. If vaccines, antibodies, even viruses and bacteria were common sense, humanity would have known about it for a lot longer. We've just discovered this shit. Like when you look at humanity as a timeline of how long we've been working to figure out the world and how long ago we figured out that we have antibodies and viruses and all that shit, we've barely known about it because it's not common sense. Sometimes common sense can lead you astray. Like, for example, I remember once, okay, say you're trying to save room. You look in the fridge, you want to make more room. You see there's 2 half bottles of orange juice, different brands. Common sense is you just pour them into each other. It doesn't matter. It's both orange juice and you've made more room. I saw someone do that with floor cleaners. There's 2 bottles of floor cleaner, both half open. You want more room under the sink, just pour them into each other. I was like, whoa, 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 you can't fucking do that. They're like, what are you talking about? And they seemed insulted that I was even telling them you can't mix different brands of floor cleaner that way, because they were like, they were working from common sense. And it wasn't a sign that they didn't have common sense that they did that. That is common sense. It's not that I had more common sense than them, and it's not that I was smarter or understood even in any way why the floor cleaners will fucking interact. It's not that I was smarter. It's that because that's not common sense, that you can't mix different floor cleaners, there were fucking PSAs about it. Or so I don't know who told me, but I only knew that because I was told. So to me, when it comes to all these issues of antibodies, vaccines, vaccinations, even if you think someone else is wrong, I wouldn't say that they don't have common sense. And then as far as the comment of that if I had COVID-19, I've got the antibodies, and just that flat out, no need for vax. First of all, again, I would be very careful with that kind of absolute statement. Sometimes we can overcome the reason we initially did something, and you would think, hey, there's no need to do that again. We can, okay, here's an example. At one point, the reason you pickled food was because you couldn't freeze it, you couldn't refrigerate it, and we didn't have, the same kind of food supply. So you had to preserve food, and pickling was a method of it. Once we got fucking refrigerators and freezers, and once you could buy cucumbers all year round, you could argue, well, there's no need to pickle food anymore. And I think at one point, it wasn't about needing to. It was just that we had developed the taste for it or liked the taste, and that the only reason anyone was eating pickled food was not the original reason we pickled it. It was just because they fucking liked the taste of pickles. And so it would be very easy at that point to say, there's no fucking need to pickle food. However, recently there's been the discoveries that our gut biome affects our emotional state and our mind and whatnot. And apparently eating pickled foods is good for your gut biome, that it provides support to the beneficial type of whatever. Again, I don't fully understand this fucking shit, but from what I've heard, there is another reason to pickle food. So I would just always be careful with that. Well, there's this, no need. But so to say, and first of all, I don't even know that that's true. Like, these things are complicated. I'm not saying I know what's true, but I'm saying I could imagine hypothetically that even if you got a virus, there would be other reasons to need the vaccine. Like whether it was, it reduces the chance that you can transmit it to someone else, whether it's, maybe the way this shit works hypothetically could be that it actually increases your resistance to getting it again, because not everything do you develop a definite immunity to. But for me, it was none of that. The reason I finally decided to is because, and I've never heard anyone else discuss this, I've heard other people got long haul COVID and got the same kind of fatigue as me. But for me in particular, what I've observed is that the fatigue from long haul COVID is fucking brutal when mixed with bipolar. So I do feel I am in need of some way to overcome this fucking fatigue. I don't know that this will work. And in fact, when I was looking it up, if when I was looking it up, the sources that were saying that some people's long-term or long-haul COVID or whatever was helped by getting the vaccine, if the experts being quoted in those were taking that point of view of, look, obviously everyone needs to get the vaccine, and I know that this is why the vaccine helps with long-haul COVID, and there could be no other reason. If there was that kind of thing, I would have found that off-putting. Again, and I'm not arguing whether the information here is correct or not at this moment. I'm talking about what it is about information being presented to me that makes me more inclined to believe it or not. Because often when people talk about common sense, sometimes we mean common sense. You put your hand on a hot stove, it's burning your hand, pull your hand off. That is common sense. But often what people mean when they say common sense is, that's my bias. My bias is this. That seems, so I'm going to call that common sense. I'm trying very, very hard to overcome my own biases. The more I do that, the more I realize I don't know. And when it's come, I think society in general, the natural resource we're badly fucking destroying is trust. I'm disheartened at times by the way we've taken the way we discuss everything. But what I did find not off-putting about the shit I read just directly on this one issue of long-haul COVID was the experts commenting on it said shit like this. I don't know why, but it seems for some reason, certain people with long haul COVID, the vaccine fixed that. It might be this, it might be this, it might be this. I don't know. I found that refreshing. It would have been off-putting. But so there have been people apparently, like unless I'm just reading lies, there's always, and that's the other thing is we're all lying so much and we're all accusing each other of lying fucking so fucking hard. It's like on both sides. The left's accusing the right's accusing the left, the anarchists are accusing the system are accusing the anarchists. And it's like everyone seems to like the fact that I'm not overly judgmental of them. Everyone likes the fact that I'm not taken in by their enemy. But then people get disappointed that I won't be judgmental of their enemy. It's like, I have noticed people want me to take a side on certain things. And it's, in fact, I'm very, very surprised. Like, for instance, there's somebody, I'll just let it remain anonymous. Somebody I know very well. A while back, we were talking just a little bit about the vaccine. She said, well, I believe they released this intentionally. I was like, really? You believe? Like, you think this is definitely has been released? And it's not, if she had said, I'm really curious that this might have been intentional, or I see a lot of reasons why this could have been intentional, that wouldn't have surprised me coming from her. What I was surprised about was the way she was just like, no, I believe it. And I'm surprised by how many people fucking believe anything. It's almost like the way people are with sports or professional wrestling. It's like, that's my team. I believe in them. It's like you pick something and then you stick to it and you believe in it wholeheartedly. But so I didn't even get the vaccine because I believe it will fix long haul COVID. I took a shot that it might fix it. And what happened, I will never know even if that was a good idea or not. Also, I want to make sure it doesn't seem like I'm too far. Like, I want to make sure it doesn't seem like I'm opposing. Oh, sorry. Adela wrote, old people in the know tell me to go to the doctor to get sick in the hospital to die. Yeah, there's totally that side of everything. I'm not saying, especially with connecting to Levi's with the mental health, like, I am not saying the mental health system isn't fucked up in a lot of ways. The mainstream medical system, I don't want to sound like I'm opposing Adela. Because with all of this, I'm saying I don't know. And so if I'm talking to someone on one side of things and they're certain about that, I might end up sounding like I'm more certain about the opposite than I am, because I'm uncertain about all of it. And I'm very, very aware that these systems are fucked up. But also, like, specifically with mental health, because like, it is really fucked up what we do with people in mental asylums. Like, people still die in the Western world from being in fucking restraints. And, you know, like some of that shit in the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books. Like, they weren't making that up. It's fucking horrible what we do to some of us lunatics. But then you can also say, compared to what? Because it was a fuck of a lot worse before. We were lowering people literally in the pits of snakes. Like, read the book, The Snake Pit, which at that point, they weren't lowering people into pits of snakes, but it's a reference to when we actually did that. But like, we have horribly tortured people, strapped them down in ice baths, killed people. So I'm trying to do both, to be aware of the problems in the mental health system, but also to try to be grateful for the ways it has improved. And there is a place to step up and fucking fix this shit in the system. So, for example, one person I really respect, And I think the way I've been talking so far, and sorry, programs, I'll look at all that stuff you've read. I just kind of want to keep going on this train of thought. Fuck. Oh, okay. So one person I really respect, Sasha DeBrule. Like, he was instrumental in me coming to grips with and accepting the fact that I was crazy. Sasha saw all these fucked up things in the medical system. And, like, he's a leftist punk, which, like, even I am naturally completely on the left. When you hear the counter to that coming out of me, that took years and years and years of examining my own biases and realizing the degree to which I don't know. So I'm very careful if someone presents a fact to me that, like, everything inside is like, oh, it's so wonderful that that's true. That sets off a warning bell. Be careful. Don't just assume that's true because you want to. And the way it used to be, if I'm presented with some fact that I don't like based on my natural, big five personality, my natural bias, it used to be that when you get that feeling of that can't be true, that used to put up a red warning sign there. Now, when I get that reaction immediately to a fact, I'm like, whoa, I am really polarized against this. If it is true, I will be likely to dismiss it. And so I look twice as hard at things that I want to dismiss. But anyway, Sasha looked at these problems and he dedicated himself to fixing these problems. Like, he's very involved in community organizing shit, get people gardening, back to the land, don't be dependent on the fucking system. Let's get communes and let's take care of each other. And when it comes to the fucking mental health system, Sasha didn't bitch and complain. He enrolled himself, I forget like whether he's becoming a psychologist or whatever, but he enrolled himself, started learning the medical model system while at the same time running off the grid fucking for us, by us, mental health, radical mental health support groups challenging the system. Like, he was involved in that kind of thing. Like, fuck yeah. Like, at the same time, he got involved in the system, tried to learn the system's way of thinking, and has gone around giving lectures and having discussions with mental health professionals, saying, here's what it's like. And he's working to improve the system. I totally fucking respect that. That needs to be done. However, that's not me. It's like with everything. I don't vote. It's not up to me to fix the fucking mental health system. I'm the outsider. That's not me. It's great, and we need people to do that. That's just not me. I'm about finding the loving spiritual path through this world. It's like, if this is Star Wars, I'm not fighting the Empire. I'm like living on Tatooine or wherever outside the Empire, helping people deal with the fact that there's an Empire. Like, how do we live with this? Which isn't because I think that's the better thing to do. I don't even question, which is it? Do you fix the system or do you help people survive what's going on now? It's not like one's better than the other. Like, that's not why I chose it. It's a know your fucking place thing. Like, know thyself mixed with the way Pajot says, know your fucking place. I realized I found my place, and it is just not my place to challenge the system. But so I hope, Adela, it didn't seem, because, okay, so here's something I'll express now to show that I'm not all the way on that trusting side. I'm very open-minded. I don't just dismiss any of the conspiracy shit. So I did take the vaccine for all the reasons we discussed so far. Certain things like the tracking chips, brain control, those kinds of things seem highly unlikely to me. But just in case I'm totally fucking off on all of that shit, after I got the vaccine, I did a big magic ritual. The magic ritual was so that the vaccine will interact properly and I will get a positive change from it. But within that, like within it was included Like, for instance, to use Star Wars as an example again, I've watched a bit more of The Mandalorian. It's like someone can send a hunter droid after you, and you can just fucking destroy the droid. Or that one little guy took the hunter droid and reprogrammed it to be a nursemaid. And then there's, as Christians will say, what the devil intends for evil, God can use for good. So just in case I had fucked up and there's some sort of nanobots inside of me, I prayed on the devil's intends evil, God provides good. I'm going to reprogram this. So even if something toxic was put into me, if something that I would magically and spiritually rewrite that so that no matter what was intended, I get benefit from it. So it's not like I dismissed the reasons, whatever reasons Adela might have had to say you don't need a vaccine, and whatever reasons Adela might think it's dangerous, or like Levi pointed out, incompetence. Like, even if we leave aside any of that stuff that people would call conspiracy theory, obviously there's, like with anything, even if you get a medicine correct, there's always that certain percentage of people that there's always the risk. But mixed to that, all the pressure in this fucking system, all the corruption, like, I am not impressed with the system. I'm really not. But so anyway, I took the risk, and I also took every fucking possible reason that the vaccine could be dangerous seriously as well. And I'm not sharing any of this. Like, the reason I haven't discussed the vaccine on the channel, like I haven't been discussing it, isn't because I would fuck up the algorithm. That's the reason I moved here. But it's like, it's not that I have been afraid to discuss the vaccine. It's I don't want to. I am not the fucking person to ask about that. I don't want to get involved in this. It's not my place to figure this shit out. I recognize, so then I'm at the whim of whatever level. It's like, if you don't investigate the system, then you're risking that. Nobody should be asking me whether to take the vaccine or not. Like, I don't have an opinion on that. I'm not telling people what to do. I don't know if what I did was right or not, and I'll never know, because even if the effect I hope for happens and there's no other side effects, that doesn't fucking mean it was the vaccine. There could be a confounding variable. It could be a coincidence. You could argue it was placebo effect. Or it could be it was fucking dangerous and the magic worked. Same thing. If it doesn't work, that also doesn't necessarily mean it was a mistake, because, for instance, maybe the truth is it fixes 90% of people with long haul COVID, and I'm just one of that 10%. Kind of the reverse of, if you walk in, pick up a handgun off the table, point it at your head and pull the trigger, and that gun was unloaded and you're safe, that doesn't mean it is safe to walk up to an unknown gun, point it at your head and pull the trigger. It means you got lucky. So maybe I'll just get fucking lucky. If this does work, it's not proof of fucking anything. If it doesn't work, it's also not proof. Like, for instance, in the winter, I could walk outside, or I could step outside and get hit by a fucking meteorite and get killed. That doesn't mean it's not a reasonable and safe thing to do to step outside. So I don't want to be involved in the actual discussions about the vaccine. It's not my place. And I don't see anywhere that the conversation's going on in a way that I would want to get involved. But also, I feel I don't have anything to contribute. On the other hand, if someone has stress and anxiety over all this, and you want to talk about how do I deal with it, how do I, for instance, if you know there's a cabal of people trying to reduce the population to 500,000 or whatever the Georgia Guidestone says, it's like, I am not the person to come to try to figure out if that's true or not. But if you want to figure out how to spiritually deal with the fact that you believe that, for instance, one spiritual practice that might be a real struggle if you believe that, would be, how the fuck do I love those people who are doing this to the world? Because, you know, you have to love your enemy, and there's the Zen mindset of we're all one, and like, how the fuck do I love these people who are trying to kill everyone except 500,000? It's like, there's a discussion where if you're not looking for me to validate that that's true, and you're just saying, look, this is what I believe, how do I can step into a framework and discuss how to deal with that. I feel like I'm not explaining things well at all now, mixed with my brain just seized up. So I'm going to read chat for a minute. And okay, Adela didn't write anymore. And also, I just want to say, the side effect of mixing long haul fatigue with my state of being, my bipolar, or my fucking dysfunctional enlightenment, whatever the fuck it is that all of the dark, my manic energy will not flow into any of the positive shit. It's like, I'm still committed to forgiveness, love, and all of that shit, but that voice inside of me has almost no energy and sounds like a fucking idiot to the rest of me. And I have all of the dark shit, the judgmental shit, the bitterness, the resentful, that's all turned way the fuck up. What I am living with recently is, it's like I've got something in my head that's a mix of like Lewis Black and Tim Dillon and the Unabomber and the Night Stalker, like just this really fucking clever, hateful, vengeful. I can look at absolutely anything and see all the worst, like all the worst in everything is just being flooded in my head. I'm trying to commit to the positive. So in the moment, I'm actually worried that because I'm this way, did I sound like critical of Adela? Because I wasn't trying to be, or did I say anything harshly? So if I did, I just want to explain, I'm in a bad state. I'm trying very hard to speak from the angels, the better angels of my nature, rather than the inner demons. But it's like someone pulled all the batteries out of the better angels and supercharged all the demons. Which is why, like, I decided to take the risk was, if this goes for a full year, I don't know how long I can handle the effect this has had on my bipolar. I feel very close to having the brain of like a fucking psychopath recently, because like I was talking about, when good things happen, it's like all I get is an empty, hollow joy from things that I should feel fucking joy in. It seems to me like joy doesn't exist. Like all this time I'm spending meditating, and it's like beautiful weather and animals are eating out of my hands, or, you know, getting to see my kids and they're being adorable. And it's like I interact with my kids in a way where it looks like you wouldn't see from the outside, but inside it's like I am committing to the hollow, empty shadow of joy that I'm not actually feeling. And I'm experiencing these wonderful moments that it's like as if, imagine that instead of triggers, we think of a switch. Something triggers an emotion, something switches on. So something bad happens, it flips someone dies inside, the grief flip switches, and like a light switch, the grief light comes on immediately. The light is the energy. It's like when things trigger my joy, it's like the joy switch goes up, but nothing turns on. There's no energy. And when I'm needing to interact with people, I am acting as if the joy light is on because the switch is up. But I'm having to... Fuck yeah, I don't know how to go further into that. But anyway, I don't know if I can handle years of this. Fuck, I'm just going to read chat. But anyway, if you're still here, Adela, I really hope, because, again, like I said also, I did the magic, like, I dived into that side and took counteraction in case this was a mistake. Okay, you are still here. And okay, I'll go back up to programs and Pat in a minute. I'm glad you didn't have any bad side effects after taking the vax. Yeah, so far, it was 2 days ago. I could still get sicker. Like as an update, and again, doesn't prove anything of anything. Like who knows what it would do to other people. So far, I haven't noticed any effect other than the shoulder muscle being really sore. It's not so bad today. But so far, no improvement yet either. But I really hope, Adela, I didn't sound harsh at any point when I was talking about, like off what you said. You know, I love you, and I like you. So I can love someone and not particularly like someone. And I hope I'm not sounding fucking judgmental of people who are in reality tunnels when I talk about how, because it seems a lot of people like about me is if they're having reality tunnels forced on them, trust the system or be this or be that. They like that I'm not forcing like that I'm not caught up in that same thing. But it's like I am trying to recognize that there is no outside of a reality tunnel to be down here in reality. We're all stuck in reality tunnels. I'm trying to be... I am skeptical of absolutely everything I experience. I'm equally as critical of my own certainty as I am of everyone else's. Not offended at all. Okay, good. All right, now I'm going to go up and see what programs wrote out. Program said it is certainly counterintuitive that a vaccine would help someone with long COVID. However, by that logic, a single shot of vaccine should be sufficient to provide full immunization, but it doesn't. The immune system learns to fight whatever it fights. If there is lingering infection, it may help to give the immune system even more exposure to the spike protein so it can learn faster. There are also things like cross immunity, where immunization to one thing can improve immune response to something related to it. There are also examples of things like this with other diseases. People who have chicken pox can get the shingles vaccine to reduce the likelihood and severity of getting shingles in old age, even though they already have antibodies for it. So on the whole, it's counterintuitive on the surface, but there's also some precedent and logic to this. When I say I don't think common sense applies to science, logic applies to science, but the purpose of science seems to me, I'm being overgeneral here, is that that's not where common sense applies. To be fair, though, I also saw this as a gamble. Yep. Merc, if you haven't seen any Discord, DM me a heads up. I haven't seen any Discord. Ivermectin might be another chance if the vaccine doesn't end up working, although it's not officially approved in Canada. It's being used in other countries for COVID, though. All right, I don't know what next step will be for me if this doesn't work. I'm not looking ahead that way, but I will keep in mind, I will come back to that if this doesn't get rid of the fucking long haul COVID. And the couple cases where I read the articles in depth, I scanned a bunch of shit. I only read a couple in depth. The couple I read in depth both said it wasn't till the second vaccine that their long haul was improved. One of them, and in fact, one of them got worse. So I'd brace myself for that. The one article I read in depth, a woman who'd had long haul COVID for a year, got the first vaccine, and for 3 weeks, that made it even worse. And then they got better after the second. So I was braced for it getting worse. But with all this stuff, and I actually did not go the route of, because you can go two routes with trying to figure out what to do. You can try to understand what's going on. Or you can observe the statistics. Like, for example, washing your hands as a doctor going from one patient to the next. You could be convinced to do that two ways. One, it could be, look, we're going to show you what bacteria and viruses are. We're going to teach you all this stuff you don't know exists to convince you to wash your hands going stage to stage. Or you could just have 100 hospitals not doing it, 100 hospitals start doing it, and you could say, look, I have no idea why, but way the fuck less people. Or, for example, at one point, lots of babies were dying in orphanages because we didn't know. We thought they were like fucking houseplants, small babies. Give it water, give it food, give it air, give it sunlight. It should grow. And all these babies are dying. Some fucking woman, I think at that time period, wouldn't have been a doctor, some nurse or whatever, or just an employee, started carrying babies around, like giving them an hour of contact. And the babies stopped, like died way the fuck less. I don't know if we have ever explained that, like scientifically. I don't know if we know why. But yeah, babies need to be fucking held. But I think the way we discovered that was not to figure out the why. It was, we started doing it and babies survived. So who knows why? So to one degree, and that was kind of the sort of logic that was, although I don't feel I made this decision in a sane way. I also trusted, it was like Socrates trusting his inner daemon. That looks insane. I'm not arguing it's even logical necessarily. Because the same way there's a limit to common sense, where common sense applies, there's a limit to logic as well. But I do feel I made this decision in a crazy way. It involved praying, seeing signs, trusting that my archangel or guides would notify me if I was not supposed to do it. And I didn't get the feeling that I was being told, yes, do this, this will improve it. I was not told not to. All right. Pat says, I don't know about the vaccine, but I don't like being cornered into anything. Yeah, no one likes being cornered into anything. Also, there's no talk of just making healthier decisions. This thing is not right. Probiotics. Yeah. Yeah, all of that's valid. I don't like being cornered in either. In one sense, I wasn't in this sense externally. Like nobody came and forced me. I don't know if I was quite Perhaps I was feeling cornered by the fucking fatigue. And by the serial killer that's been living in my fucking head. Another reason I shouldn't be advising anyone is what's good for me is not necessarily good for anyone else. The same way that, like, Jordan Peterson's not a good person to copy what normal eating is like. He's obviously a special case. I am so fucked up. Like the same way that I'm an outsider. Like I was talking about my place within the system. It's like, yeah, I'm a fucking dog-headed man. I don't know what this fucking bipolar thing is. I am fucking weird. I don't react to anything normally. I don't experience reality normally. And so it's not any of the other reasons that I got the vaccine. It wasn't for and I'm not saying I wouldn't have. Like if If I was asked to take the vaccine for other people's sake and my inner Damon didn't tell me not to, I think I would have. I wasn't presented with it, so I don't know what I actually would have done. But like if my family had come to me and said it's important to us for whatever reasons, or if society said to me, okay, now it's time for you to get vaccinated, this is for the protection of everyone else, I think I would have if my inner Damon didn't tell me not to. So I think the that social responsibility could have caused me to get the vaccine. I never encountered that. Like the government never told me I had to get vaccinated. I'm not being restricted in any way for not being vaccinated, even if there are places other people are being restricted. Like you can only go to the concert if you're vaccinated, or I heard Russell Brand yelling about something about dating apps. You know what I mean? It's none of that matters to me. I don't interact with the world. I don't go anywhere. Society was not asking me to take the vaccine. My family did not ask me to take the vaccine. And the government never, like nobody ever came and said to me, it's your responsibility to get it just so you don't send it to other people. I didn't encounter that. I don't know. Maybe it would have raised my hackles more than I expect. But I imagine that if my inner guidance didn't tell me not to, I probably would have just for those reasons, but I never encountered them. The only reason I attempted the vaccine, like decided to take this risk, is I cannot live the rest of my fucking life this way. I don't know if I could get through a year of the combination, because what the fatigue did to my bipolar's fucked up. It's the way of emotions that manic energy flows into. One branch is pleasant. Joy, feelings of love, enthusiasm, excitement. Sorry. Even like that obsessive excitement, joy, euphoria, feelings of intense, agapic love, particular love. It's like just so much energy can flow into all these positive things, which some of those can go too far. You can get too enthusiastic and euphoric and whatnot. Then the other branch is manic energy can flow into irritation, anger, frustration, being judgmental, being bitter, being resentful. And this fucking fatigue has shut off all energy flow into the positives. I'm not experiencing any joy. I'm experiencing the downsides of love and not the upsides, because love can cause different emotional things. You love your child and you see that they could get hurt, you get all these bad feelings. Like, I love you so much, I don't want you to get hurt. When you love a small child and they're hurt or they're crying, I feel all that kind of love. But that joy filling up, it's like the switch goes up and the light doesn't fucking come on. I only feel the vulnerability of love. I only feel the downside. I'm not feeling the fucking positives. That's the same with everything. The fucking beautiful nature and my connection to God, my connection to my inner better angels. It's all so fucking quiet. I don't know how to describe how hard it is to stay committed to aiming at the good, loving kindness, forgiveness. To even try is so hard. To not just, there's such a strong desire to, oh, everyone's playing the judgment game? All right, let's get into the fucking judgment game. You fucking suck and you fucking suck and I suck too. Like, we all suck so bad that you want to play the let's judge each other game? All right, I'm going to rip all of you the fuck apart until we all realize what worthless pieces of shit we are. It's a lot of work not to connect to those fucking thoughts, to allow them into, and to stay committed to the, Yes, you can frame things that way. I get it. Because, like, I understand you can frame the whole fucking universe as life is not worth living. Like Peterson says, the antinatalist argument. That's illogical. It's that takes you somewhere bad. It's very hard to stay committed to that when you're just experiencing the world through that lens, to try to stay committed to the other lens that light doesn't seem to be getting through, or to be getting through minimally. Maybe when I said the joy light doesn't come on at all, maybe it's not that it doesn't come on at all. It's that you see this little faint glow of orange on the filament. And you could say, why didn't you just pray for this to be fixed then? If you don't want, if there's dangers with the vaccine. And it's like, it's not that I don't believe God doesn't answer prayers, but God often tells me, I try to pray like the Christ, take this cup from my lips unless it's your will. If I could have gotten rid of all this bipolar right from the beginning through prayer, I would have. I asked, but with unless it's your will, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, shortly before the events that caused me to get the vaccine, I prayed fucking hard that I don't think I can handle this long haul COVID. Same thing, I'll drink the fucking cup if you insist. But can I please pray for fucking relief from this? I don't know how much of this I can handle. It's then a bunch of synchronicities happened, and the hope is that this is a way of God answering my prayers. That a series of synchronicities pointed me to the vaccine, and that even if the vaccine's fucking wrong, like that God wanted to use that and also gave me the intuition to do the ritual after. So it's like, even if we're going to follow the make-believe story that this is the answer to my prayers, that wouldn't suggest that other people necessarily take the vaccine. But I do find that magic and prayer, okay, there's people on two sides. Some people will say magic and prayer never works miraculously. It's always through real world things that come up. I'm not on that end. It seems to me that I've observed things where magic and prayer can cause like fucking magical fixes or miraculous. Other times it's like you pray and it comes through the world. Oh, like one example, Damien Eccles, that guy who puts out a bunch of shit on high magic. He had like all these problems with his teeth from getting beatings from guards when he was on death row. Because he was on death row in Texas for, I don't remember, 10 years or something before they found out he was actually innocent, that he wasn't a fucking serial killer. So anyway, all kinds of teeth problems and shit. And at the point where he was out and everything, he said at one point something, the nerve pain was getting worse. There was something with the problems with his teeth. And so he did a major magic ritual to fix his teeth. And the next day, I think he bit into something and one of his teeth fucking broke in half, forcing him to go to the fucking dentist, and the dentist fixed all the other shit that he needed fixed. And so the one framework to look at it is, if you do magic for something, magic will take, it's like water or electricity. It follows the path of least resistance. So if perhaps he was in a castaway situation like Tom Hanks with a bad tooth, and he had done the ritual there, then magic would have had to take a more seemingly magical way of fixing his teeth, because there's no fucking dentist there. But if you live 5 blocks from a dentist and you do magic to fix your teeth, the magical energy might just find that the easiest thing to do is to send you to the dentist. So perhaps God worked this way with the vaccine for me. Or magic did. Because I don't separate prayer from magic. I don't separate magic from language anymore either. So my definition of magic's very broad. Obviously, my brain just froze up there. And I got a flood of negative thoughts about myself. And the stream is fucking stupid, and what am I talking about? Yeah, and I do agree with both, Adela and Pat about that. Health is about lifestyle and food and all of that. Absolutely. But that doesn't mean there aren't times, it seems to me, it doesn't mean there aren't times you don't need medical intervention or spiritual intervention sometimes, or okay, Pat says we can die worried they are trying to kill us, or die thinking they're saving us, or we can ignore it altogether before we die. That's our superpower. We're creating our own reality. For me personally, I don't find the word they useful. It's we. So to me, what the Nazis did in the death camps and because, bipolar people would have been in there as well. So I could identify with the bipolar people in the Nazi camp and think this is what they did to us. Just like I could read The Snake Pit or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and look at what they did to us. But I see that is what we did to us. That's what some of us did to some of us. We didn't land here and take the land from them. We landed here and did that to us. And that's not something I'm telling other people to do. Like, I'm just sharing. That's one of those things. And I don't have the brain power in me to explain any of the whys, or even to fucking think of them at the moment. I just remember I have a bunch of reasons why. And I'd found an experience that if I even in my own head thinking in that way, if I'm thinking of someone as a them and a they, it warps my thinking of the entire thing and disconnects me. Whereas if I think of it all as we, it takes me better places. For some reason, that made me think of this is completely unrelated. But anyway, I've heard Peterson more than once talk about how nature is always trying to kill us. And, you're fighting back against that. Nature's trying to freeze you to death. So you got to build a fire, and nature's trying to this and this. And, nature is just always trying to kill you. And then it finally succeeds. I found that a very not useful way to look at it. And also not fucking, that is such a shallow, warped way to look at it. The reality is nature is actively keeping you alive in every fucking moment. And eventually it stops keeping you alive. Like, nature is simultaneously killing and giving birth, but it's like every fucking moment that you're alive is entirely supported by nature, by this whole fucking thing. The sun is out there fucking burning this giant fucking ball. Just like, that's got to keep going on to keep you warm. Every cell in your body is a part of nature. And again, it's to separate nature. Nature is trying to kill me. Well, then what the fuck am I? I'm just this. Like, is the ocean doing something to a wave? The wave is the part of the ocean. But yeah, like some of us do all kinds of fucked up things. Some of us are trying to kill us. But there's and again, I don't know all the facts. I don't know what the fuck's really going on, but it seems more likely to me that more of us are trying to keep each other alive, or how the fuck are we here? Because it's really easy to damage shit. You can kill an adult like that, but it takes you 30 years to make another one. I could burn this house down in a couple hours. I can't rebuild one. How many people can there really be, whether it's like evil? And at the moment we're separating, because also there's all the incompetence. But it's like, how many religious leaders, how many corporations can be actively trying to kill us? How many serial killers and mass shooters out there are planning? How many terrorists are trying to blow us up? How many? The world's fucking fragile. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the reality of it. It's not that I don't think there's some of it. There's got to be a lot of people honestly on the... Fuck, my brain's all seized up on that. Andrew says, I'd love to know the reasoning behind their trying to kill us. If anything, here in the US, corporations are so greedy that they would want more and more mindless consumers. So wouldn't they want us to live as long as possible? Oh, it would really depend what the reason for them, whoever's plotting against. Like, for some people are trying to kill people because they've taken that fucking... like the school shooter or the serial killer, like all this fucking emotional nonsense inside of me at the moment that is pressuring me to just say, oh, fuck you, all of you. This isn't good. And by this, I mean everything. We need to destroy existence and strike back at this foul creator. Some of us set out killing just from that. And those of us who do it that way, yeah, are often the ones that end, take some action that does a bunch of damage and then ends in our death as well. One theory is that they're trying to reduce the population to enough that they can guarantee, so that they can have better control. So it's not about having control over as many as possible. It's about having the herd small enough that you can have total control over it. But that for me is a hard thing to... I have difficulty understanding that mindset, which is weird because a lot of people would have difficulty understanding the mass shooter or the serial killer's mindset. I have no problem understanding that one. I don't know how I would put myself in the mind space of someone that would write the Georgia Guidestones or whatever that thing is. I just have no idea. So does anyone have anything else they want to say about vaccines? I think I said... Yeah, to tell you the truth, it's not something I really wanted to talk about at all. Like as a subject on its own. And for some reason, I had the thought, though, that because I guess because it was a part of me trying to fucking sort myself out, making the decision. I got to sort this fucking fatigue out somehow. Was why I shared that. But then because there were those comments, yeah. And I wanted to do a stream just on it and bring it up here because I don't want to talk about it over on sorting myself out. Because I've already let the channel devolve to such a pathetic fucking place anyway. Subscribers are just going down. I'm not putting out any quality content that's going to make the algorithm happy with me. And as much as the channel's mine at the moment, part of me doesn't see it as fully mine. It wasn't always mine. It's like a lot of other people put work into getting the channel where it is. And I don't know if there's more that whether, I don't know if one day I'm going to hand it off to someone else or if I'm going to start getting more active with it or if sort of because last summer, not just Ryan and Andrew, other people like wanting to get involved will become more of a team effort in the future again. I have no idea. So I'm not sure if I'm responsible to people in the future that have an investment in the sorting myself out channel. Is why I don't want to piss off the algorithm at the moment over there. Pet says people are waking up and they are losing the power. That's why they would stage a pandemic. Could be. I have no opinion. And it's like the information, the general information economy, the information sphere is so fucking polluted that I don't even want to try to figure out what was going on. It's like as if if someone took the Bible and ran it through a cross shredder and turned it into confetti, I would not be interested in trying to figure out the truth of the Bible by assembling all that confetti. Like the effort taken to do that, it's just not worth it. You've ruined that information. Once you put a Bible into a shredder, that's ruined as far as I'm concerned. Like someone else could sit down with a big fucking pile of tape and start trying to put it back together, but I consider that ruined. Aspects of information are like that to me. Also, like, if there is some fucking big conspiracy running everything, and yeah, I'm not saying I don't know that that's not true, but if there is some major conspiracy running everything, most people are using the system to find all this information out. It's like everything is coming off of this fucking computer that I bought from a fucking corporation, and YouTube's a corporation, and Facebook's a corporation. And if the system is trying to kill me, why would I think that I could sort that out? Like, this is the system. Why would the information be here? My talking part of my brain is fucking shot. Also, that fucking bitchy part of me sees the people are waking up. People mean so many different things by that. Step out of one reality into another reality, like one reality tunnel into another reality tunnel. And calling that waking up. It's like Mentioned earlier, that process of you're naive and you trust everyone, and then you get hurt and you turn cynical. It's like, I do see a lot of people who are just making one step in a long fucking chain towards enlightenment. They make one step on that and start declaring themselves awake. But it's like, I've had the kind of night terrors and nightmares where you keep waking up from the nightmare, wake up in your bed and, oh, fuck, thank God there aren't killer robots trying to kill me. It was a dream. And then something comes to fucking kill you and you wake up in bed again and you're like, oh, thank God. And you go downstairs to get a coffee and fucking police swarm into your house and wake up back in bed. I have had that where it chains for a dozen or more times. And when you have a really bad one of those, it takes a couple hours once you're really awake. Before that's fucking disorienting to wake up over a dozen times into other dreams. But that also has been my experience of reality tunnels or frame changing. I really, really deeply feel what Donald Hoffman talks about. This isn't reality we're observing. It's an interface. And we affect the interface. What we think are axioms. It's our natural biases, but it's also the practices we take on. Magic, prayer, meditation. These things actually alter reality because reality isn't reality the entire time. It's always a reality tunnel. It's always an interface. And I do think it's possible to like wake up to that fact. Like to me, that's really awake is, oh shit, I'm hallucinating this. Not I was hallucinating this up till now. Now I'm seeing everything clearly. That I find is often what people mean when they are awake. Like some people wake up to the truth. Like some people join the fucking clan and wake up like, oh, I was so blind. I believed the fucking lies that we're all equal. It's you can wake up backwards. You can also, even if you're moving forward, like the way cynicism in a way is a step beyond naivete. You could call that awake because you're moving forward, but that's also a bad place to be. And that's also not awake. And so then you can move to the step beyond where like Peterson talks about being, where you're not naive anymore, but you've also realized the limitation of cynical. And so it's an act of faith and courage and trust, and you know you're taking a risk, but you're choosing to make the world, you know, blah, blah, blah. But so you do it with an open eyes and you're aware that I don't know if I should trust this person. So you choose to trust them. And you're aware that you don't know if you're right or not. You don't just fall into naivete with them. You don't become cynical. And you can call that awake. But I still think there's steps beyond that before I'd be like, I'm really awake. Because it seems to me a lot of people are just moving from one reality tunnel to another and going, this now I'm in reality. Now I'm awake. Whereas it seems to me a more fully awake, which still isn't fully awake. Like I don't think you get fully awake until you get up. Like once you're calling Christ brother because you're a part of the body of Christ with him, then you're fucking awake. I feel like that was sounding like nonsense. Andrew says at the same time, it's not really all about greed. The situation's complicated. I just find it hard to believe that there is a malevolent intention at every rung in society to destroy every individual. Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And it's like, we're not dismissing that there's not greed. And like, obviously we've done really like greed's caused a lot of ecological damage. Greed causes murder, causes fucking, like you can hire someone to abduct a child for a pedophile ring. I don't know what the reality of how much of that goes on, but it's like that does happen. Like greed causes the worst shit in the world to happen, but it can't all be that. It's the line between good and evil's running down everyone's heart, like down the middle of everyone. It's a mixed bag. And also it's so fucking not just intensely complicated, but so big that I don't see what's really going on. You can learn more, but also depending how open-minded you want to be, like, are you learning the right things or not? Like, you can go backwards. Program says if you're ever experiencing those chain false awakenings, you can do a reality check to verify whether you're still dreaming. My favorite is to plug my nose, gently try to breathe. If I can breathe with my nose and mouth closed, then I'm dreaming. If not, then I'm awake. Just be careful to do it gently, since if you do this in real life, you will be pushing or pulling on your eardrum, which can injure them if you do it too hard. I don't know. When I wake up from that shit, I don't know that I'm in a frame of mind to even remember to do a reality check, because it's not just the bewilderment of waking up into a dream over and over again. For me, that's only happened with fucking night terrors. So it's like phenomenologically, I've just had a dozen different attempts on my life. So you also wake up from that, not just shell-shocked and this is real or not, but also, yeah, you just feel like you've just been attacked by a dozen things and you're in a state of sort of shock. There's that mixed with it when I wake up from that shit. This has worn my brain the fuck out. I think my ability to put thoughts into any sort of communicable place is deteriorating rapidly. So I'm going to wrap this up, I think. Yeah, my head is just full of how stupid it was to do this and how useless this video is. But I know I'm in that state, so I don't know. I hope someone either enjoyed it or found it useful. Is there any final things to say? Or do I just shut this off and go out to see what animals are around? Met a raccoon last night as the sun was setting. Never seen her before. She walked down the driveway and must have picked up the scent of the peanuts. I was surprised how long it took her to notice me. She got within 20 feet of me, I think. And she noticed me when I put out one cigarette and lit another. But I was sitting somewhat still, but I was sitting there smoking. She came all the way down. She was just wandering down the driveway, wandering across the yard. Then she seemed to pick up the smell, wandered over, ate a couple peanuts. Then when I put out one cigarette and lit another, she just looked up, surprised, sat perfectly still. I just sat still for a moment to see what she'd do. And she just froze. Then I said, hi. She just turned, ran into the grass. Then 30 seconds later, I saw her just peek up from the long grass and look at me. She just watched me for a minute from back there, and then she slowly came out of the grass. I talked to her. I just said hi again. And I said, yeah, peanuts are for you. You're welcome. So she started eating peanuts. Hung out for a while. Then I needed more smoke. So when I stood up, she was about 15 feet away, I think. When I stood up, she went back to the grass, but didn't run this time. She just sort of took a look at me when I stood up. And as I turned to walk inside, she turned and walked to the grass. Then I came back out and sat down. She did the same thing. She popped up again after a minute of me sitting out there, and then she walked back out and started looking around for peanuts. And she came up to about 5 feet away from me. I haven't had a raccoon in the yard since I've been feeding the birds the past 3 years. I haven't seen one going through the peanuts. I've seen raccoons like in the trees out in the field and the bit of forest behind the trees along my driveway. I've seen raccoons since I've lived here up in the trees at night. Sometimes you really pick them out if you turn on a light and flash it across a bunch of trees. There's raccoons in there. Their eyes fucking... But I've never had one coming over to eat peanuts. Again, so that was something really nice. It didn't make me happy, though. But, it was that fucking hollow, empty. You are very welcome, Adela. And to wrap up the subject of vaccines, I don't know what the fuck's going on. I was going to say, but I hope what happens to everyone is like best for them. I don't invest in too much short-term optimism. Or the real world optimism. It's not that I'm optimistic that we're not all going to die horribly. Radiation because there's some fucking nuke war, or entire power grid goes down and we're all fucking murdering each other like Mad Max, or they intentionally turn this world into Walking Dead. It's not that I'm optimistic that can't happen. I'm invested in the long-term optimism that if that happens, that was what we needed. The idea that... And so one of the reasons, like I said earlier, I guess I'm going to ramble for a second instead of going outside. I'd said earlier, if you want to figure out what the cabal's doing, what the conspiracy is, I'm not the right person. But if you want to talk about how do we love the people, one sort of metaphor for one way I look at it is like when you move up to a higher position. So it's like when you're watching Star Wars, yes, it's fucking horrible. Luke just had his hand cut off and he's fucking crying. He's going to fall. And like, yes, the Empire is horrible inside the story. Inside the story at one level, as you're watching the movie, you invest in the Jedi side, right? And so you're playing out in your head how you would fight the Empire, how we want to take down the Empire and fix this universe because the Empire is doing all these horrible things to everyone. But that's when you're watching the movie and you're caught up in it. You've suspended disbelief. If you were sitting down with George Lucas working on the script, you wouldn't say, George, we got to get rid of this fucking Empire. They're doing so many horrible things. Like, because then the movie is about how happy Luke is on Tatooine and how happy everyone is. And I don't know what the Jedis are doing. They're just like Lotus Eaters, or it's you don't improve Star Wars by removing the Empire. And in fact, the way you make a dramatic piece better is the worse you make the end of Act 2, the better you've set it doesn't guarantee a bad Act 2, doesn't guarantee a great trilogy or a great story if it's a 3-act. But it's like the worse we are at the end of part 2, the better set you are to write the final grand completion. So my very fucking exhausted inner angels are trying to point out, how do I put this? that the worse you see things getting, if you believe in that final optimism, like if you believe like just fundamental, if you're Christian, if you believe everything is redeemed at the end, that the holy city comes down, it's like the worse you see things getting, if you honestly trust the overall plan on a metaphysical realm that's beyond you, then when you see the worst catastrophe beginning to unfold, well, again, you would still do whatever it is you could do down here if you were actually in the place. Like, for instance, if you're somebody designing the vaccine, you do everything you can that this is honest and good. But it's like, instead of freaking out that, oh no, this is going so wrong, it's horrible, if you trust that the authors got us, that us collectively on a higher realm are writing a good story, then the worse you see the end of Act 2 unfolding, the more glorious the end must be. Even if it's incomprehensible to me. If my intuition that God is good is correct, it's like a pendulum swing. The further we're being pulled into disaster and the worse it seems. Like, the more the serial killer inside me is experiencing this world as fundamentally evil, that's just pulling it further so that ultimately, whether it's in this life or not, it will launch me into a realm of God's glory if you stay on the path, trust the plan, that the worse it gets, the better it's got to be in the end to balance it out. All right, that's it. God bless. Lunatic, love, doll.